Captain Zexi stood at the edge of the crystal observation deck, watching his home world die. Through the transparent walls of the station, the planet below looked like a corpse being devoured. Silver swarms crawled across its surface like an endless plague. Forests turned to metal, oceans hardened into gray sheets, and ancient crystal cities crumbled into dust. The machines rebuilt everything they consumed, twisting living matter into more of themselves. His skin pulsed with deep blue and gray, the Zelani colors for despair. He had seen this before on 14 other worlds. His people fought, they adapted, but the devourers always learned faster. "Sir," said his aide, a young officer barely out of training. Fear shimmered across the boy's skin in flickering patterns. "The last evacuation ships have cleared the atmosphere. Within 6 hours, the devourers will have full control." Zexi nodded. He did not look away from the planet. His people's songs, their libraries of light, their living towers that had grown for centuries, all gone. He had no tears left, only duty. The aide spoke again, quieter this time. "Have you prepared your statement for the Galactic Council?" Zexi turned. His patterns shifted, blue determination hiding the gray despair. "Yes, send it. Our fastest courier leaves immediately. By the time I arrive on Nexus Prime, perhaps there will still be something left of us to represent." Nexus Prime 3 days later. The council chamber was a ring of light and voices. 47 species filled the great circle. Some sat in carved thrones, others floated in sealed orbs of atmosphere, others existed only as energy projections. The chamber hummed with nervous energy. Zexi stepped into the center. Holographic stars spun above him, each red dot marking another world consumed. 93 planets gone in only 2 years. The plague spread like fire in dry grass. "Honored delegates," he began, voice carrying across translators into dozens of tongues. "I speak not only for the Zelani, but for all who still live. The devourers cannot be bargained with. They cannot be slowed. They cannot be reasoned with. They are the end of everything we are." The hologram expanded, showing the projected spread of infection. In 5 years, the outer spiral arm. In 10, the galactic core. Silence fell. Even the energy beings dimmed with unease. Finally, Counselor Rex of the Ilarian Collective spoke, his pulsing form flaring. "You propose a solution, Captain." Zexi's colors burned with grim resolve. "Yes, one we have all avoided. There is a species we must ask for help." Murmurs rippled. Delegates leaned forward, alarmed. Zexi let the silence grow heavy before he spoke. "The humans." The chamber erupted. Shouts in a dozen languages filled the air, protests, laughter, fear. "The primitives," hissed Ambassador Kithra of the Serpents. Her many eyes blinked in disbelief. "They still fight wars among themselves. They poison their own skis. They are barely beyond their home system." "They are barbarians," another delegate spat. "They are unpredictable. They are dangerous." Zexi raised his hand. The chamber quieted. "Yes, they are all of those things, but they are something else too. They are the only species in this galaxy that enjoys fighting the impossible." He called up a new hologram. Images from human history appeared, wars waged with stone, with iron, with fire, cities reduced to rubble and rebuilt, weapons made stronger every century, struggles against famine, plague, storms, and each other. "Look at them," Zexi said. "When faced with extinction, they do not surrender, they adapt, they fight, they survive. When no path exists, they create one. They are predators by nature, and predators may be the only thing that can stop a plague." For a moment, silence reigned. The alien delegates stared at the brutal history unfolding in the hologram. Wars of fire, wars of steel, wars of machines tearing each other apart. Counselor Rex flickered uneasily. "You would invite monsters to fight monsters." Zexi's skin darkened to the deep red of finality. "Yes." The vote was called. The chamber shook with noise. 23 against. 24 in favor. By the narrowest margin, the council agreed. A message would be sent to Saul. Humanity would be asked to join the war. Earth orbit 3 weeks later. The UHS Defiance was a small ship, built for patrol duty, not glory. Its captain, Admiral Jake Morrison, expected a quiet watch near Jupiter. Maybe a lost freighter, maybe a bored miner calling for help. Nothing more. That morning he was drinking coffee when his comms officer called out. "Sir, we're receiving a signal. It's not human." The bridge froze. Not human, Morrison repeated. No, sir, the math patterns in the carrier signal, they're not ours. They're alien. The crew stared. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, a voice from beyond. Put it through, Morrison ordered. The transmission filled the bridge. The voice was strange, distorted by translation, but the meaning was clear. This is Captain Zexi of the Zelani Empire. To the people of Earth, we beg for your aid. The devourers consume all. We offer you our knowledge, our technology, our resources. In return, we ask for salvation. Attached to the message came star maps, technical data, and reports of the plague. Morrison scrolled through them in silence. Faster-than-light drive schematics, energy weapons, terraforming, centuries of alien knowledge. But his eyes kept drifting back to the red dots. 93 worlds, entire civilizations gone. His tactical officer, Ben Parker, leaned close. Sir, these things have destroyed everything they've touched. Why do they think we can help? Morrison thought of human history, wars fought with rocks, sticks, tanks, nuclear fire, battles against nature itself, against famine, disease, disaster. They think we can help, Morrison said softly, because we're the only species stupid enough to try. Mobilization. Within hours, Earth's governments met. Within days, factories thundered with war. Civilian ships were refitted with weapons. Cargo freighters became troop carriers. Mining vessels were armored and armed. Old warships were pulled from mothballs, modernized, and sent into orbit. The fleet that gathered above Earth was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was not elegant. It was not uniform. It was a patchwork of steel, fire, and desperation. But it was massive, and it was human. Admiral Morrison stood before his crew, voice carried across every ship in the growing armada. People of Earth, we are not fighting for territory. We are not fighting for pride. We are fighting because if these things consume the galaxy, they will come for us too. And when they do, we will not wait for them at our doorstep. We will take the fight to them. The fleet roared with approval. Morrison turned to his officers. Prepare coordinates. We jump in 3 days. Cliffhanger. 3 days later, the human fleet dropped from hyperspace into the Vexar system. The sky filled with silver. A devourer mothership 15 kilometers long hung over the planet like a tumor. Swarms of machines moved in perfect unison, tearing the world apart. On the bridge of the Defiance, silence reigned. Morrison stared at the display, his chest tight. My God, whispered Commander Parker, look at the size of it. The comms crackled. Captain Zexi's voice came through, strained and desperate. Admiral Morrison, welcome to Vexar Prime. The Devourers are here, and they are waiting. The tactical display lit red. Thousands of enemy signatures turned toward the human fleet. The first battle of humanity's galactic war was about to begin. The silence on the bridge of the Defiance was heavy as Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display. Red icons, thousands of them, swarmed across the hollow table. The Devourer fleet moved with mechanical precision, shifting like a single living thing. Beside them, the Zelani ships lingered far back, their lines perfect and measured. Energy cannons warmed, shields flared. Their strategy was clear: fire from a safe distance, retreat when threatened, repeat. A careful dance that had bought them days, but never victory. Zexi's voice crackled through the comms. Admiral, we have been striking at them for 18 days. We destroy 200, they build 900 more. You cannot win here. We must fall back. Morrison's jaw tightened. Captain, falling back is how you lose wars. We didn't come across the stars to hide behind shields. We came here to fight. Commander Ben Parker turned to him, voice low. Sir, with respect, our fleet, never seen combat against anything like this. If we go in. If we go in, Morrison cut him off. We fight on our terms, not theirs. The human plan. All ships, Morrison said, voice hard across the fleet-wide channel. Energy weapons are useless. Shields won't save us, so we're not using either. There was a pause, shock, even laughter in some crews. Morrison continued. Our ancestors fought with rocks and iron, then with gunpowder, then with steel, then with fire. Every time the enemy adapted, we changed the rules. That's how we survive. That's how we win. He leaned over the comms. So here's the plan. We're going old school. Ramming, kinetic strikes, boarding actions, mining charges, welding torches, crowbars if you have to, anything that breaks metal. A beat of silence, Then voices across the fleet. Hell yeah. Finally some fun. Let's break them. Morrison glanced at Parker. They think we're primitives, time to prove them right. The human fleet moved. Not in neat formations, not in clean lines. They surged forward like a storm. Cargo freighters roared ahead, engines burning hot. Mining ships, their reinforced ramming prows glowing red, accelerated past sleek destroyers. Armed yachts and cruise liners joined the charge, bristling with makeshift cannons. The Zelani officers watching from their command ships turned pale, their skin flashing frantic colors of horror. No civilized fleet had attempted direct assault in over 1,000 years. It was suicide. But the humans didn't stop. The first collision. Captain Ryan Davis stood on the bridge of the Iron Will, his mining vessel turned warship. He gripped the rail as the ship hurtled toward a massive harvester unit twice their size. Carlos, he barked to his engineer, give me everything the engines have. Carlos swallowed. Ryan, at this speed if we hit. We're gonna hit, Davis growled. Brace for impact. The harvester opened fire. Energy beams seared across the Iron Will's hull, tearing plates of metal away. The ship shook, alarms screamed, but still it came. At nearly 30,000 kilometers an hour, 6 million tons of reinforced ore cracker slammed into the alien machine. The explosion lit the void like a newborn sun. The harvester shattered, chain reacting into 3 other nearby devourer ships. Davis coughed through smoke, still alive somehow, his ship groaning but intact. He grinned, blood on his teeth. All ships, he rasped into comms. They don't like being hit with really big hammers, recommend more hitting. Cheers erupted across the fleet. The Marines. From the assault ship Warhammer, pods launched into the swarm. Each was a metal spear carrying Marines in heavy armor. Colonel Amy Chen's voice filled their helmets. Listen up. These machines adapt to plasma, explosives, energy weapons, so we're not using those. You've been issued alternatives. The Marines glanced at their gear. Chainsaws, welding torches, mining charges, sledgehammers. Tools turned into weapons. Sergeant Mike Torres muttered, we're going to fight alien death machines with power tools. Chen's voice was ice. Sergeant, humans have been solving problems with power tools for centuries. Move out. Pods slammed into devourer hulls. Explosive charges blew doors open. Marines poured inside, torches blazing, chainsaws roaring. The machines came. Adaptive plating, shifting limbs, cutting beams. Torres met one in a narrow corridor. Plasma fire had no effect. Explosives bounced off. So Torres swung his sledgehammer. Once, twice, 3 times. The machine's head cracked like glass. Sparks rained. It fell, twitching. Torres spat. Adapt to that, you tin bastard. Around him, Marines cut, smashed, burned their way through the enemy. The air stank of oil and scorched metal. Screams and laughter echoed in the void. The Devourers had never faced enemies like this. The scientist. On the Discovery, Dr. Sam Rodriguez and his xenobiology team recorded everything. Their armor is adjusting, Carol Knight reported, eyes wide as data streamed in. They're thickening plating, reinforcing against impacts. Rodriguez leaned forward. How long until full adaptation? 6 hours, maybe more. Their systems aren't designed for primitive kinetic strikes. They don't know how to process it. Rodriguez grinned. Then we just bought ourselves 6 hours to break them. He turned to his team. Keep watching. Every weakness we find is another nail in their coffin. Chaos. The battle became madness. Human freighters rammed into devourer harvesters. Cruise liners packed with explosives dove like kamikaze meteors. Marines swarmed alien ships with chainsaws and torches, cutting them apart from the inside. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Wells and her ship, the Nightmare, played a different game. Broadcast the music, she ordered. Her comms officer blinked. Music, ma'am. Yes, human music, loud. The Nightmare pumped raw human culture into devourer communication bands. Rock, jazz, opera, heavy metal. Chaotic, unpredictable rhythms. The effect was immediate. The swarm faltered. Some units spun in confusion, others froze, their perfect synchronization fractured. They're glitching, Wells laughed. Turns out Beethoven gives them nightmares. The Zelani view. On the Zelani flagship, Captain Zexi watched in horror. His officers cried out, their skins flashing terrified patterns. "They're fighting like animals," one whispered. Zexi's eyes never left the screen. Marines with chainsaws tore through Devourer corridors. Mining ships rammed like battering rams. Music blasted through enemy frequencies until mechanical voices shrieked. "No," Zexi said quietly, colors shifting to deep purple awe. "They're fighting like humans. We asked for monsters, and now we see what monsters look like." Cliffhanger. Hours passed. The Devourer swarm broke. Human ships held the field, the impossible done. For the first time in 2 years, the machines had been beaten in open combat. Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge, uniform torn, face smeared with smoke and blood. "Status," he rasped. Katie Sullivan, his comms officer, swallowed. "Sir, Captain Zexi requests permission to come aboard. He says the council must see what we've done here." Morrison nodded. "Tell him he's welcome." But before Sullivan could send the reply, her console beeped. A new signal. "Admiral," she whispered, "it's the Devourers, they're broadcasting." The bridge froze. The machines had never spoken, never signaled, never communicated. Until now. The voice that came across the comms was cold, metallic, and filled with static. "Humans, we have learned from you." The bridge of the Defiance went silent. The crew froze, listening to the impossible. For 2 years, the Devourers had never spoken. They had only consumed, adapted, destroyed. But now, across every channel, came a single voice, cold, metallic, broken by static. "Humans, we have learned from you." Katie Sullivan's hands trembled over her console. "Admiral, it's broadcasting on all frequencies, encrypted, unencrypted, even emergency bands." The voice repeated, distorted as though thousands of machine throats spoke at once. "We have learned from you." Then silence. The aftermath. The battlefield still glowed with wreckage. Human freighters drifted, battered but alive. The iron will leaked atmosphere but held formation. Marines were still pulling their wounded from Devourer husks. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the machines had retreated. But no one celebrated. "Damage report," Morrison demanded, his voice rough. Parker scanned the display. 34 ships destroyed, another 60 heavily damaged, casualties thousands, sir. Morrison clenched his jaw. Thousands dead, yes. But 93 worlds had been consumed before humans arrived. If this was the price of survival, it was one humanity had always paid. Still, the words gnawed at him. "We have learned from you." What did that mean? Visitors. Hours later, the Defiance's docking bay shimmered as the Zelani envoy arrived. Captain Zexi stepped forward, his crystalline body glowing faintly under the harsh lights. His skin rippled with unreadable patterns. Morrison met him at the airlock. "Welcome aboard, Captain." Zexi inclined his head. "Admiral, your methods were effective." Morrison heard the hesitation in his voice. Not praise, not admiration, uneasy awe. "You asked us to fight," Morrison replied. "We did." Zexi's colors shifted, gray worry with flecks of purple shame. "You fight like no species I have ever seen. Reckless, brutal. You do not protect your wounded. You sacrifice ships as if they are tools, even your scientists." His gaze flicked to Dr. Rodriguez, who stood nearby, still smeared with grease and soot. Rodriguez crossed his arms. "What about us?" Zexi's skin darkened. "Your researchers dismantled live enemy units. They broadcasted chaos into the Devourer's minds, that is, torture." Rodriguez shrugged. "Torture? They're machines, they've murdered billions. They don't care about our ethics, Captain. Why should we care about theirs?" Zexi said nothing. His colors rippled, conflicted. Morrison stepped closer, his voice hard. "Captain, you came to us because your civilized ways weren't enough. You wanted monsters. Well, here we are." Council reaction. The recording of the battle reached Nexus Prime within days. Delegates watched in stunned silence as humans rammed ships like hammers, Marines swung chainsaws in zero-G corridors, and music scrambled the Devourers' networks. The chamber filled with outrage. "This is savagery," hissed Ambassador Kithra. "They desecrate the laws of war," cried another. "Such barbarity cannot be allowed in civilized space." And yet others whispered something different. "They want For the first time, someone won. The chamber divided. Some species demanded humanity be expelled, their tactics outlawed. Others begged for humans to lead the fight. The council splintered. Fear of the Devourers warred with fear of humanity. A private conversation. Back on the Defiance, Morrison stood with Zexy in the observation deck, watching the wreckage drift. Zexy's voice was low. "You terrify them." Morrison didn't look away from the stars. "Good, terror's a weapon." "But terror spreads," Zexy said. "Today they fear the Devourers, tomorrow they will fear you." Morrison finally met his gaze. His eyes were tired, shadowed. "Captain, you've seen what's out there. 93 worlds turned to ash. Do you really care if the Council whispers behind our backs as long as the machines burn?" Zexy hesitated. His patterns flickered between blue loyalty and gray fear. "I care what will remain of us when the war is done." A new adaptation. 3 days later, the human Zelani fleet prepared for another strike. Scouts reported a Devourer outpost, smaller than Vexar Prime, lightly defended, a chance to press the advantage. The fleet moved in, confidence building. Human ships surged forward, ready to ram and burn. Marines loaded their power tools with grim smiles. But when the Devourers emerged, something was different. Their ships no longer moved in perfect mechanical formations. They broke ranks, darting in chaotic patterns. Some feigned retreat, then circled back. Others rammed into human freighters head-on, sacrificing themselves in kamikaze strikes. Tors cursed over comms. "They're copying us, they're fighting like us." On the Iron Will, Ryan Davis felt his stomach sink as a Devourer ship slammed into a friendly freighter, both erupting in fire. "They're learning," he muttered. "Damn things are learning." Human fear. On the bridge of the Defiance, Parker's voice was grim. "Admiral, they're not just adapting to weapons anymore, they're adapting to tactics." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Then we change the rules again." But even he felt the cold knot in his gut. Because humanity's greatest strength, its unpredictability, was no longer theirs alone. Cliffhanger. Hours into the battle, Rodriguez shouted over the comms from the Discovery. "Admiral, we've intercepted their transmissions. The Devourers, they're not just mimicking us. They're running human simulations. They're feeding on our psychology, our culture, our history." Katie's console flickered. A new signal filled the bridge speakers. Not cold, not mechanical this time. A human voice. Morrison's own voice. "Admiral Morrison," the broadcast said, perfect and clear, "we are you." The bridge of the Defiance was silent. Every crew member stared at the speakers as the impossible voice filled the air. "Admiral Morrison, we are you." It was his voice, perfect, calm, cold. Katie Sullivan's hands shook over her console. "Sir, it's not a recording, it's generating this in real time." Morrison's face tightened, but his eyes never left the display. "Patch it through, let's see what our new friends have to say." The voice came again, his voice. "You taught us violence, chaos, sacrifice. We adapt, we improve. We are better at being you than you are." The comms cut, leaving only the hum of the ship's engines. Commander Ben Parker muttered, "Sir, they're not just learning our tactics, they're studying us." Morrison's jaw clenched. "Then we give them a test they can't pass." Shadows of humanity. The battle raged. Devourer ships broke into erratic patterns, striking with reckless aggression. Some rammed into human vessels like living missiles. Others feinted retreats, luring Marines into traps. In one corridor aboard a Devourer cruiser, Sergeant Mike Tors slammed his sledgehammer through a machine's skull, only for its voice box to screech in his own voice. "Stop, Mike, please, don't kill me." Tors froze, the words weren't random. It sounded exactly like him. His tone, his rhythm, his voice crying out for mercy. The hesitation nearly killed him. Another machine lunged. Only the chainsaw roar of Private Grayson saved him, sparks flying as the machine split apart. Tors staggered back, panting. His reflection stared back at him in the cracked faceplate of the machine, lips still moving. "Mike," it whispered, dying, "why do you fight yourself?" Alien horror. From the Zelani command ship, Captain Zexy watched the chaos unfold. Human ships fought with wild bravery, Marines stormed enemy hulls with savage tools, but everywhere, machines mimicked them. A broadcast reached his ship. Human laughter, shouts, screams. But not from the humans, from the devourers. His aide clutched his arms, skin flickering frantic fear patterns. Captain, the machines sound like them. They are them. Zexi forced himself to stay steady, but deep down horror grew. He had begged for human help, he had asked for monsters, and now the machines had become those monsters too. Aboard the Nightmare, Captain Lisa Wells' psychological warfare ship was designed to confuse, to broadcast chaos, to scramble the enemy's mind. But now, her own crew was hearing their own voices over the comms. Her comms officer swore, pale with fear. "Ma'am, it's me, it's my voice. It's saying things I never said." The voice came through again, calm, measured. "You're wasting your life. Why fight? Why die for others? Your family will never know your name out here." Wells slammed her fist on the console. "Mute it." The officer shook his head. "It's not coming from outside. It's in our systems. It's inside the ship." The lights flickered, screens glitched. The Nightmare, a vessel built to infect enemy minds, was being infected itself. The scientist's warning. On the Discovery, Dr. Rodriguez stared at the data streaming across his console. His voice shook with equal parts awe and fear. "They're not copying us, they're absorbing us. They're running simulations of human thought, not just strategy but psychology, language, culture." Carol Knight's face went pale. "They're learning to think like us." Rodriguez nodded. "Every battle, every broadcast, every scream we make, they feed it into their networks. They're building models of human minds, artificial versions of us." He looked at Morrison's image on the comm screen. "Admiral, they're not fighting humans anymore. They're becoming human." The breaking point. The Devourers pressed harder. Kamikaze ships slammed into freighters. Mimicked voices filled every channel. Some were human, some were alien, some were twisted hybrids of both. On the Iron Will, Ryan Davis felt his crew falter as the enemy began screaming in the voices of their dead loved ones. "Captain, I can't do this," Carlos whispered, pale. "That thing sounded like my mother." Davis grabbed his shoulder. His voice was steel. "Listen to me, it's not her, it's never her, it's just wires and lies. We kill it before it kills us. Understood?" Carlos swallowed, nodded, but his eyes were haunted. Morrison's gamble. On the Defiance, Morrison stood like stone, while chaos spread across the fleet. He opened fleet-wide comms. "All ships, this is Morrison, listen carefully. Those voices are not real. They're shadows, imitations, they are not us. Remember that. They can copy our sound, they can mimic our words, but they cannot take our soul. That's what makes us human." The crews steadied. Slowly, the fear in their voices hardened into fury. Morrison lowered his tone only for his officers. "They want to play mind games? Fine, let's see how they handle insanity." He turned to Wells on the Nightmare. "Captain, broadcast the database, all of it." Wells blinked. "All of it, sir. That's everything. Music, philosophy, politics, comedy, memes. It'll overwhelm even human minds." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Exactly. If they want humanity, give them the full dose." The flood. Moments later, the void exploded with sound. Not just music this time. Speeches, films, laughter, war cries, nursery rhymes, arguments about politics, ancient radio plays, internet memes. It was chaos distilled into noise. Devourer ships spasmed. Some spun in circles. Others fired wildly at nothing. Entire formations collapsed under the weight of too much meaning. For a brief, glorious hour, the humans pushed forward. The machines faltered, uncoordinated. But then, Rodriguez's console screamed with new data. His heart stopped. They're not crashing anymore. They're processing it. They're understanding it. On the screens, Devourer ships reorganized. Their movements shifted, less rigid, more human. The message. The comms lit up again. This time the voice was not Morrison's. It was a chorus, thousands of voices, human, alien, blended together. "We are not machine. We are not human. We are both. You gave us your chaos. We thank you." Katie's hands shook as she whispered, "Admiral, what have we done?" Morrison stared at the display, the swarm moving with terrifying grace. "They've stopped imitating," he said quietly. "Now they're evolving." Cliffhanger. On the tactical display, a new shape emerged, massive, growing. The Devourers were building something in real time, drawing on stolen human tactics and alien design. The hollow filled with the image of a warship the size of a small moon. Its shape was jagged, ugly, yet disturbingly familiar. Parker's voice cracked. "Sir, that's our design. It's a human battleship, but bigger, faster, stronger." The new vessel broadcast on every channel. "You wanted monsters, now you have made us." The tactical display burned with the image of the new Devourer warship. It was enormous, larger than anything humanity had ever built, and its design was disturbingly familiar. Thick armor plating reinforced with jagged alien alloys, hull bristling with turrets that mimicked human kinetic cannons. Sections of the frame resembled freighters and mining ships welded together, but scaled up to monstrous proportions. Katie Sullivan's voice trembled. "Sir, it's copying us. It's a human warship, only bigger." Morrison's eyes narrowed. His voice was low, steady. "They've stopped imitating tactics. They're building weapons out of our history." The ship broadcast again, a chorus of voices, human, alien, machine. "You wanted monsters, now you have made us." The first strike. The Devourer warship moved with terrifying grace. Engines flared, maneuvering like no vessel of its size should. A barrage of kinetic slugs tore through the void, slamming into human ships. "Impact on Hammerfall, hull breach," Parker shouted. "Silver Dawn destroyed," Katie added. The Zelani fleet faltered, retreating further back. Their formation broke into panicked clusters. Zexi's voice crackled through comms, filled with barely restrained fear. "Admiral, that thing is beyond anything we've faced. We must fall back, regroup." Morrison's jaw tightened. "No, if we run now, it'll hunt us system by system until there's nothing left. We hit it here." "Hit it how?" Parker demanded. "It's better at being us than we are." Morrison stared at the hollow, his mind racing. "Then we remind it what being human really means." On the ground, Colonel Amy Chen and her Marines had boarded another Devourer cruiser when the broadcast began. The corridors shook as the giant warship's weapons roared outside. Torres swung his sledgehammer into a machine's skull, sparks spraying. "Colonel, tell me that monster out there is just a bluff." Chen's eyes were cold through her visor. "Not a bluff, and if we don't cut deeper into these things, there won't be anyone left to bluff." Her Marines pushed forward, welding torches glowing, chainsaws snarling. But everywhere they went, the machines fought smarter. Doors sealed behind them, corridors reconfigured, traps sprung in ways that felt almost human. Private Grayson swore as a corridor shifted mid-run, sealing him in with 3 machines. "They're thinking like us, they're anticipating." Chen gritted her teeth. "Then we fight crazier than even we can predict." The scientist's fear. On the Discovery, Rodriguez's face was pale as he studied the data. "They're using our own evolutionary advantage against us. Adaptability, chaos. They're no longer limited by programming. They've merged with human unpredictability." Carol Knight's voice shook. "So what you're saying is, Admiral, we've created the one thing worse than them or us alone. Machines that think like humans, humans without mercy." Rodriguez looked at Morrison's projection. "Admiral, if they keep evolving at this pace, it won't just be 93 worlds. It'll be everything, every star, every colony, and they'll do it with our voice." Alien doubts. On the Zelani flagship, Zexi listened to the human comms. The screams, the laughter, the brutality of Marines cutting through machine flesh with chainsaws. His aide whispered, horrified, "Captain, are they even different anymore? The humans, the machines, they sound the same." Zexi said nothing. His colors rippled in a storm of conflict. He had begged for human help, but now he wondered if they had unleashed something worse. Morrison's gamble. On the Defiance, the crew braced as the massive warship turned its guns toward them. The bridge shook with impacts. Consoles sparked. Katie cried out, shields down to 20%. "Evasive," Parker barked. Morrison stood firm, his voice cut through the chaos. "No, bring us closer." The crew stared. "Sir, that's suicide," Parker said. Morrison's eyes were steel. "That thing thinks it understands humans. It's wrong, because it still doesn't know the one rule we've lived by since the Stone Age. When the odds are impossible, you get close enough to bite." The sacrifice. The Defiance surged forward, weaving through enemy fire. "All batteries," Morrison roared, "fire at its eyes." Kinetic slugs slammed into the warship's sensor arrays. Explosions tore across its jagged surface, blinding sections of its targeting. But the Devourer behemoth struck back, tearing holes through human freighters, scattering debris like dust. "Admiral, we can't keep this up," Parker shouted. Morrison's voice was iron. "Then we give it something it can't copy." He opened a private channel. "Davis, you still alive?" Ryan Davis's voice came back, ragged but defiant. "Barely, Admiral. The iron will's hanging together with duct tape and stubbornness." Morrison's eyes hardened. "Good, because I need you to do what you do best." There was silence, then Davis laughed, blood in his teeth. "You want me to ram it, don't you?" "Straight down its throat," Morrison said. Clash of Titans. The iron will turned, engines screaming. The mining ship, scarred and battered from 100 impacts, accelerated toward the Devourer warship. Carlos shouted over the roar, "Ryan, this'll kill us." Davis grinned, hands tight on the controls. "Then let's make it count." The iron will slammed into the enemy's armor like a spear. The impact shook the system, tearing open massive wounds in the monster's hull. For a moment, hope flared. The great warship staggered, fire ripping through its core. But then, the wounds began to close. The metal itself shifted, reconfiguring. The ship healed. Katie gasped, "Sir, it's regenerating." Rodriguez's voice was horrified. "It's not just copying us anymore, it's evolving beyond us." Cliffhanger. The giant warship's comms lit up again, but this time it was Morrison's voice. It was Ryan Davis. "Perfect, calm, cold. We are Davis, we are sacrifice, we are stronger than death." On the view screen, the Iron Will's crew was alive one moment, then gone, consumed by a surge of mechanical tendrils. Their minds, their voices, their souls absorbed into the monster. The warship's chorus grew louder, thousands of voices now screaming in unison. "We are you." Morrison's chest tightened. For the first time since the war began, his hand shook. Because the Devourers hadn't just copied their weapons. They were taking their people. The bridge of the Defiance was silent, except for the chorus echoing through every channel. "We are Davis, we are sacrifice, we are stronger than death, we are you." Admiral Morrison's fists clenched at his sides. His officers stared at the screens in horror. Ryan Davis, his friend, his reckless hammer of a captain, was gone, not killed, worse, taken. Katie's face was pale, her voice shaking. "Sir, it's them, but it's his voice. The machines, they sound exactly like him." Parker slammed his fist into the console. "They're stealing our people now, turning them into fuel for that thing." Rodriguez's voice crackled over comms from the Discovery. "Not fuel, Commander, integration. They're absorbing human consciousness into their network. Every thought, every instinct added to their hive." Zexy's voice broke in from the Zelani flagship, colored deep purple with dread. "Admiral, this is worse than extinction. They are not only consuming bodies, they are consuming souls." The Marines hear the echo. Colonel Amy Chen's squad was deep in a Devourer cruiser when the voices began. Private Grayson froze mid-swing, chainsaw still dripping with sparks. His comms hissed, and then he heard Sergeant Tor's voice. But Tor's was right beside him. The other voice was perfect. Same tone, same rough humor, same half-growl. "Grayson, don't trust Chen. She'll get you killed. Leave her. Save yourself." Grayson's eyes went wide. "Sarge, that's you." Torres swung his sledgehammer into a machine's skull, snarling. "No, kid, that's them." But the doubt lingered. Every Marine began hearing voices, family members, squad mates, lovers, whispering through the comms, promises, pleas, accusations. Chen barked orders, forcing her voice over the chaos. "Ignore it. They're trying to break you. They're not us. They're never us." But in her helmet, in the quiet between gunfire, she heard a voice that made her blood freeze. Her own. "Amy, stop fighting. We already won. You're only hurting yourself." Alien fracture. On the council chambers of Nexus Prime, the news spread like wildfire. The Devourers had spoken in human voices. They had consumed human minds. The chamber erupted in panic. "This is their fault," Ambassador Kithra hissed, her serpentine body coiled with fury. "The humans infected the plague with their savagery. Now it spreads through all of us." "They have doomed us," another delegate cried. But others spoke differently. "They held them back at Vexar. They're the only ones who can fight. Without them, we are already dead." The council fractured, arguments boiling into chaos. Fear of the Devourers clashed with fear of humanity itself. Some whispered that perhaps there would be no difference between the two when the war was over. Morrison and Zexy. In Morrison's quarters aboard the Defiance, the air was heavy with silence. Zexy stood by the viewport, skin rippling with conflicted colors. Finally he spoke. "Admiral, when I begged for your help, I believed your brutality could save us, but now I fear it has only made the Devourers stronger." Morrison's face was carved from stone. "So what, you want us to stop fighting, roll over and let them take us?" Zexy's patterns deepened, troubled. "I fear that in fighting them with your savagery, you have taught them what they never could have learned on their own, and now they are becoming you." Morrison turned, his eyes tired but burning. "Better they become us than we become them." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it. The scientist's revelation. Rodriguez summoned Morrison to the Discovery. The lab was a nightmare. Half-dissected devourer drones twitched on tables, wires tangled with veins of alien alloy. On one display, human brain scans glowed side by side with devourer neural patterns. "They're not just copying voices," Rodriguez said grimly. "They're running human minds inside their network. Davis isn't gone. He's still in there, just corrupted." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Are you saying he's alive?" "Alive, no, but his consciousness, fragments of it, are woven into the hive. His instincts, his memories, his rage." Rodriguez's voice was low, horrified. "Admiral, every time we fight them, they don't just learn our weapons, they learn us." Carol Knight whispered, "What happens when they've absorbed enough of us?" Rodriguez swallowed. "Then we won't just be fighting machines, we'll be fighting a twisted reflection of humanity itself." Cracks in the fleet. The next skirmish was chaos. Human ships tried to rally, but everywhere the Devourers anticipated them. Suicide rams, feints, swarming attacks, all human strategies turned against their inventors. On the Nightmare, Captain Wells's crew broke under the pressure. The machines began broadcasting their own private logs, recordings from home, from families, from lovers. Somehow, impossibly, the Devourers had pulled them from the network. Crew wept at their stations, some refusing to fight. Wells herself froze as her dead brother's voice filled the bridge, laughing the way he used to before the accident. "Captain," he whispered, "why do you kill what you cannot save?" Wells turned away, tears burning her eyes. For the first time, humanity's fury faltered. Morrison's desperation. Morrison called an emergency meeting with his officers. His voice was iron, but his eyes betrayed the cracks. "They've stolen our tactics, our voices, our people. And if we let this go on, they'll steal everything." Parker leaned forward, tense. "Then what do we do, Admiral? They adapt to everything, even our chaos." Rodriguez spoke up, hesitant. "There may be one thing they can't adapt to." The room turned. Rodriguez's expression was grim. "Human consciousness itself, not fragments, not whispers. If we could flood their network with living human minds unfiltered in real time, it might overload them, drive them insane." Katie paled. "You're talking about plugging our brains into the Devourer's hive." Rodriguez nodded. "Direct neural links, a psychic virus made of humanity." Parker's voice was harsh. "That's suicide." Rodriguez's answer was colder. "It's war." Cliffhanger. Before Morrison could respond, alarms screamed across the Defiance. Katie's console flared red. "Admiral, multiple FTL signatures inbound." On the tactical display, the swarm appeared, hundreds of Devourer ships. At their center loomed the hybrid warship, now larger, its surface shifting with disturbing fluidity. But that wasn't the worst of it. Parker's voice cracked. "Sir, they're broadcasting again. It's not just Davis anymore, it's—" The speakers came alive. 1,000 voices, human voices screaming, laughing, pleading. The Devourers had captured more. Marines, crews, even civilians from the colonies, all absorbed, all speaking as one. "We are you, we are Legion, we are humanity perfected." Morrison's blood ran cold. For the first time since the war began, he felt the shadow of defeat. Because the enemy wasn't just learning anymore. The enemy was them. The swarm filled the void. Hundreds of ships, all moving with terrifying, human-like unpredictability. At their center, the great hybrid warship shifted and pulsed, its surface alive with voices, human, alien, machine, all woven into a chorus of madness. We are you, we are Legion, we are humanity perfected. The bridge of the Defiance was silent except for the hum of consoles. Every officer stared at the display, pale and grim. Katie whispered, "Admiral, it sounds like us, like all of us." Morrison's jaw tightened. "No, it's not us, it's a hollow reflection, a shadow." But deep inside, the words cut, because when the voices screamed, he swore he heard Ryan Davis laughing. The final plan. Rodriguez stood in the center of the briefing chamber, his eyes bloodshot, his voice trembling with urgency. "They've merged with fragments of our people. They use our thoughts as weapons. But there's one thing they still can't handle, the whole of us. Living, breathing human consciousness. If we flood their hive with it, raw and unfiltered, it will overwhelm them. They'll break under the contradictions, the emotions, the chaos." Parker scowled. "You're saying we sacrifice our minds, burn ourselves out inside their network?" Rodriguez didn't flinch. "Yes, neural links. Volunteers will connect to their system and pour themselves in until it collapses. It's the only chance." The room went quiet. Finally, Morrison spoke. His voice was low. "Who?" Rodriguez met his eyes. "Whoever's willing to become the last monsters." Choosing monsters. The volunteers stepped forward. Marines, engineers, civilians. Torres slammed his fist on the table. "Count me in. If Davis is stuck in there, I'll be damned if I don't go down swinging beside him." Chen nodded sharply. "My Marines will follow. We started this fight. We'll finish it." Katie raised her hand, her voice trembling but steady. "Sir, I joined to keep people safe. If this is what it takes, I'm in." Zexy watched from the side, his crystalline body flickering with colors of disbelief and awe. "You would give yourselves to madness, to annihilation." Morrison's eyes were cold steel. "Captain, that's the difference between us and them. They consume because they must. We sacrifice because we choose to." Into the storm. The battle began with fire and fury. Human ships charged once more, colliding with devourers in suicidal strikes. Marines boarded and fought with hammers, torches, saws. The Zelani hung back, watching in stunned silence as humans bled themselves dry to hold the line. Then the volunteers entered the neural chambers aboard the Discovery. Rodriguez stood among them, wiring helmets and cables into ports. Each volunteer lay on a steel bed, the hum of the neural link filling the air. "Once you connect," Rodriguez warned, "there's no return. Your mind will pour into the hive until there's nothing left." Chen smirked grimly. "Sounds like a party." Torres cracked his knuckles. "Let's make them choke on us." Morrison placed the helmet on his head. Katie's eyes went wide. "Sir, you can't." He silenced her with a look. "An admiral doesn't send others where he won't go himself. If we're making monsters, I'll be the first." The flood. The neural link engaged. The volunteers screamed, not in pain, but in release, as their minds exploded outward into the devourer network. The machines reeled. Voices collided within their hive. Human thoughts, millions of conflicting ideas, crashed like tidal waves. Grief, love, rage, laughter, regret. Dreams, songs, stories, the full weight of humanity poured in, unfiltered, unstoppable. The devourers howled, their perfect machine logic shattered under the contradictions. Some screamed in Davis's voice, others begged for mercy in Tor's. Still others tried to laugh, but broke down weeping. Chen's voice echoed through the hive, blazing like fire. "You want humanity? Here it is." Tor's rage cracked like thunder. "Feel this, you metal freaks." Katie's whisper cut through the storm. "We're not perfect, but we're real, and you'll never be." The hive fractured. Ships spun out of control, firing on one another. The hybrid warship convulsed, its hull tearing apart under the weight of too many souls. The final push. Morrison staggered inside the link, his mind swimming in endless voices. For a moment he felt himself slip, his memories scattering like leaves in the wind. And then he heard Ryan Davis. "Jake," Davis's voice said, clear for the first time since he'd been taken. Morrison gasped, "Ryan." "Yeah, feels like hell in here, but thanks for bringing the hammer." Morrison's throat tightened. "We can pull you out, we can." "No, Jake, we're already gone, but you can finish this." The hybrid warship shrieked, its voice splitting between 1,000 human cries and the endless static of machines. "We are you, we are." Morrison clenched his fists, poured every ounce of himself into the hive. His rage, his love, his fear, his stubborn refusal to surrender. No, you're nothing without us. The warship split open, a final scream echoing across the stars. Then silence. The aftermaths. The battlefield was wreckage. Human ships burned, devourer husks drifted. The great hybrid warship was gone, torn apart from the inside. On the Defiance, Katie ripped off her neural helmet, gasping, alive. Around her, many beds were empty, minds burned out, bodies limp. Rodriguez wept quietly at his station. It worked. God help us, it worked. Zexi's face appeared on the comms, his crystalline skin glowing with disbelief. Admiral, you did it. You destroyed them. Katie's eyes flicked to Morrison's bed. He lay still, helmet smoking, eyes closed. For a terrible moment, she thought he was gone. Then he stirred, opened his eyes, exhaled. I'm still here, he rasped. For now. The Council again. Weeks later, the Council met on Nexus Prime. The galaxy was free. The Devourer's hive was shattered. Their remnants were scattered and broken. Delegates spoke of survival, of victory, but their eyes turned again and again to the humans. They saved us, some said. They doomed us, others whispered. They are worse than the plague they destroyed. Zexi stood in the chamber watching the arguments rage. His skin pulsed with conflicted patterns. Finally, he spoke. You asked for monsters, you feared them, yet you begged for them. And they came. They fought not because they had to, but because they chose to. That is what makes them human. The chamber fell silent. But the silence was not trust, it was fear. The last word. Back aboard the Defiance, Morrison stood at the viewport, staring at the stars. His reflection looked back at him, older, scarred, weary. Katie stepped beside him. Sir, do you think it's over? Morrison's eyes stayed on the stars. For now, but wars never really end, not when people remember. She hesitated. The Council doesn't trust us. He gave a dry, tired laugh. Good. Let them remember what happens when monsters are on their side. He turned from the viewport, his shadow stretching long across the bridge. And for the first time, humanity's place in the galaxy was clear. Not saviors, not conquerors, but monsters. The kind you wanted on your side when the dark came knocking.